Hi, I'm Dave The RPA Guy. Yes, I know you've never heard of me, but hopefully one day you will hear of me from someone other than myself. I don't know, maybe we'll get there. So I just want to take a moment to tell you who I am. I am an enthusiast of RPA, and I also do RPA for my job at work during the day. So maybe that disqualifies me from being an enthusiast, but that doesn't matter to me. I really love doing robotics process automation. And specifically, I like to use the tool known as Blue Prism. If you know anything about RPA, you most likely have heard about Blue Prism because it's one of the generally the top four that are mentioned. Blue Prism, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, WorkFusion. And I'm not saying those in a particular order, just saying those are frequently mentioned as some of the top four. And there are a lot of others that are really good as well. But it just happens to be that I fell into the realm of Blue Prism, and I have stayed in it because I love it. I've worked with a few other RPA tools, including UiPath, but my main focus is Blue Prism. Now, how did I get to using Blue Prism? How did I find myself here? Well, that's a long story that I'll probably reveal eventually if we can manage to get, say, like 100 subscribers or 50 or maybe 10. I don't know. We'll come up with a reasonable number, something that's attainable for us, and we'll work with that. But I can go into more detail later. But essentially, I did language translation, and for the 6 years that I was in the Air Force, I did enjoy that. But I found that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, because while I was there, I grew to absolutely love Microsoft Access and making databases. That was so much fun to me, not just because of the clicking around and whatnot. It was the idea of creating something that didn't exist before, especially when that fills a need that had been around for a while. So, people need to manage data, and they didn't have a method to do so, whether that's because they didn't have enough money to, and so I could help them out by making Microsoft Access databases. Now, granted, once I moved from one station in the military to another, now there was nobody around to support the database after I left, but I'm going to hope that some other enthusiast came along and supported that. But anyway, what I found is that I loved to fill that role with something somewhat simple, I thought, as a Microsoft Access database. And that led me into being interested in technology, so I learned things like Java and stuff like that. And now I'm here doing robotics process automation, which oddly enough is very similar to what I did with Microsoft Access. It was a perfect segue into doing this kind of work, not only because of the UI based development, but because of the I guess you could call it the frame of mind that you have to be in to do this kind of work. And then also consider it like this: the purpose of that Microsoft Access database was that it was a cheaper solution to solve a problem that would have cost way too much to solve another way. And that's what RPA is largely here for as well, is to fill the role that some more expensive solution could accomplish, but that's just it. It's more expensive. Eventually, that led me into the realm of learning Java and a little bit of Python and JavaScript and some other programming languages. And what I found is that I was just fascinated by this stuff, but also I found that the market was just flooded with programmers. And that's good in a way because there's lots of materials to use, right? If I want to learn a programming language, there's tons of resources out there. Well, I tried to become a Java developer after I self-taught Java, and I felt like I was pretty competent enough to use it. And the job that I got into, I actually didn't get placed in an RPA, or didn't get placed in a Java position. I got placed in an RPA role, and I found myself using Blue Prism. Well, I learned it as best as I could. I spent long nights trying to learn the tool so I could be better for the next day. And here I am now, a couple of years later. I am loving using Blue Prism, and I am trying to learn more about it every day. And what I want to do now is to share that with more than people than just myself. I'm going to share not only my knowledge, which is, I'm not saying it's extensive, but it's pretty good in Blue Prism. I want to share my experience and my knowledge, but also maybe a little bit of entertainment. And then, I'd like to get your feedback. As you're watching this and you're thinking, that's not how I do it. I want to hear that. And so this actually brings me back around to why I started this long-winded conversation with you. Is I wanted to say that keep in mind that my background is not development. Before I came into the technology realm, I was doing something unrelated to technology. But I quickly became interested in it, and I tried my best to learn the way you should learn as a developer, and that is to learn the basics. I used programs like Alice to understand programming concepts and objects that you work with. I read Headfirst Java and really poured through that book. I read a book on Python, and I really tried to understand, especially object-oriented programming. And that's what I think has really served me well to do well in RPA. But anyway, so I've learned some of that stuff, right? And I have some programming best practices nailed down, I think. But you may find, if you are previously a developer who used a full-fledged programming language, a syntactical programming language, rather than a UI-based one like UiPath, UiPath, but also Blue Prism. I want you to keep in mind here that the way you're seeing me accomplish this is because I'm using the tool that I am most experienced with. I'm fully aware that maybe not even with that much time, there are certain tasks I could probably accomplish faster in Java. Even string manipulation is potentially faster in .NET using VB.NET or something that it might be faster that way or easier to read. But what I'm trying to do throughout these videos is accomplish everything with the inbuilt functionality in Blue Prism, and maybe extending that to some of the VBOs, which I consider to be inbuilt as well. Eventually, we might get to some things that I simply can't figure out how to accomplish through those methods. And in that case, maybe we'll do things like REST API calls, or we'll have to write some custom code to accomplish those things. But keep in mind, please, that while we could accomplish these things in another way, and maybe some of the things we automate, we shouldn't automate through RPA. That's not the point. The point of this is to use Blue Prism to in whatever ways that we can think of. That's what the goal is here. So I don't want to mislead anyone to thinking that you should and should not use Blue Prism in the ways that I am. I'm saying this is how you do it if you were going to. Hope that makes sense. Feel free to comment on all that nonsense that I just said. Disagree with me, I'm totally fine with that. Criticism I'm cool with. And let's have a conversation. This is exciting to me. I love Blue Prism, I love development, I love making stuff. So thanks for being here, and I hope that you'll continue to watch my videos, and please subscribe.